always tell who the strong women are. When women support each other, incredible things do happen. We wish to make a mark in the world and establish the fact that her success is not your failure. At hashtag WeToo, we strongly believe that empowered women empower other women. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome for the episode 8 of the movement called hashtag WeToo, a platform created to stand up, speak up, inspire, and uplift other working women around the world. I'm your host, Poonam Vijay, the founder of the movement. Our topic for the month is women and sexism at workplace. And I would like to put it this way that the question of the century that we are trying to deal with and question and debate and ask and understand is what really is the responsibility of leaders when it comes to workplace sexism and women, and what leaders can really do about it, can do for it. To discuss this, please join me in welcoming a stellar panel of eminent women leaders from the corporate world and the educational societies today. I'm joined by Miss Rubina Singh. She's right on the screen. You all know her as the CEO of iProspect, a media, shall I say, veteran industry leader since last 20 years. Miss Preeti Kapoor Srivastav, a sustainable growth mentor with Navratan Foundations and a very well-known public affair corporate leader. Then we have Miss Niyati N. Shah, an author, intimacy coach, and sexuality educator. From the Koss brothers, we have Miss Preeti Shroff, Dean at Micah Institute and a very well-known personality in the education as well as the corporate sector. And last but not the least, Ms. Shivani Madan Bose, certified POSH trainer and expert leading training programs across large organizations. You name the organization and you would find her there. So let me begin and welcome you all. Very happy to have you in this discussion. Shivani, I would like to actually start with you. Workplace sexism is actually no news to anyone. We have a feeling that what it means is also not very clear to most of the women. We usually don't understand when the lines are crossed. And in case if we even understand that the lines have been crossed, women are not too confident to possibly signal it out. Has this been your experience? And is there any anecdote, any story, any instance that you would want to give out today that can help the younger generation and even any generation of professional women out there? Over to you, Shivani.
So interesting question. Workplace sexism. I think it's very inherent and all of us would have one or another story to share. And like you rightly said, it can be very on your face instances where you feel that you're not being given an opportunity because you are a woman. It can also be something very implicit, typically known as unconscious bias. So I have almost 16 years of experience in the corporate world. I worked as HR head and thereafter I started my own venture, Proud HR Services. So prior to starting my own venture, I was working as HR head with a semi-government organization. And there I was the only woman among the so-called management, as in the HODs. So there was always a level of bias that you could feel, whenever you would make some suggestion, especially in the beginning when I joined, there would be smirks. People would they would look at each other, just give a slight smile and say, I'm an expert on body language. So you could just read, ये क्या करेगी अभी ये नई नई बच्ची आई है ये क्या करेगी, and they even gave this kind of timeline for me, 3 महीने से ज्यादा नहीं टिक पाएगी यहाँ पे. So that was the environment that I started working with, and the main idea is to just keep going. So if you just stop and feel victimized, okay, I need to end there and find another job, then perhaps I would have lost that struggle. So what I thought was, be like water, find your way through. So whatever worked, Sam, Dam, Dand, Ved, and I just kept going. And gradually we started getting results. And that was the time, these people started taking me seriously. Like I shared an incident. We had this cake cutting where, employees would come and cut cakes. And it's a good thing. And I had championized it. So they said, ma'am, aapne championized kiya hai. So why don't you cut the cake for rest of the employees?
Oh.
So it was an honor with an implicit bias that she's a woman, so she's supposed to cut cake. And I realized I need to speak up for myself. No one else would. So I said very politely and said, thank you for giving me this honor, but I think all of us have equal credit. So today I'll start with it since I championized the project. And thereafter, I would like to share the honor with other HODs as well who help
Wonderful.
their employees. So I think that was the beginning. And the main idea is just to keep speaking up for yourself, making them know that this is not okay. This is something I don't accept, and move ahead.
Very well said. Very well said. Um, um, uh, Preeti, let me now come to you, Preeti Shroff. We see all colleges today, they have councils. I'm sure Micah also has a council that is focusing on women, right? Uh, Giving them the right grooming, the right sense of confidence, the right sense of belonging for the, next step of the corporate career, right? As an institution, how are we preparing the younger generation to tackle, let me put it this way, to tackle workplace sexism? Do we even talk about it? What kind of training is needed? Uh, Please.
So, I think women today, especially the younger generation, and I would say younger because I am old and my daughter is 23, they absolutely recognize that they are going to face sexism. That itself bothers me. That they've been told that this is the way things are, and you will have to learn to compromise and somehow succeed by keeping quiet. So we begin with absolutely focusing on what are the boundaries that women need to articulate. What is
Right.
it that makes you uncomfortable? Because men don't understand that and they are told that it's okay to cross boundaries. So we begin with the understanding of articulating boundaries and what makes you uncomfortable. So that's the very first part of self awareness that we have
Right.
to bring. Second, students tell me that, ma'am, can you just help us communicate to men that they are in our way? And I
Oh,
said, explain to me, what does that mean? They are in your way. And they would say that we cannot feel safe when they are around in a conversation, when they are around as our bosses, or as our colleagues. So the
right.
second part of self awareness is that you have a right to feel safe. It is your workplace as much as it is somebody else's workplace. And we women at times just take it as a given that we can expect that we will not feel safe. So the second part is stand up and absolutely question when you feel unsafe. Don't take it as given when society says कि ये तो होता है,
Right.
right? So that's ये तो होता है, नहीं नहीं होना चाहिए. So that is the second part. And third part is often women tell me that they are told that hasi to fasi. So don't try to be yourself. Don't try to be bubbly.
Yes.
Don't try to be spontaneous.
Correct.
And I think women's best quality is we are so spontaneous,
True.
right? That's our charm. And it's society that tries to control that. So we need to absolutely communicate to younger generation that if you do not feel comfortable, you have the education, you have the ability, you have the skill, you have the talent, utilize that, stand up and vocalize. So articulation and overcoming inhibitions is what we have to work on, because it is not allowed or it doesn't come naturally given all the impositions that women experience while growing up. So women bring those uh, experiences from their regions, their cultures, their earlier institutions to colleges, and colleges need to help women when they are in that learning process, so that
Right.
when they go outside in the so called real world, they can stand up. And it is not easy. So it will be We Together, as you have launched. And congratulations, Poonam, for
Thank you so
initiating
much.
this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll come back to you. I have a very interesting question as a follow up question on this, but I'll come back to you again.
Sure.
Rubina, how Preeti just now said that it is not an easy world, and we all know this. But Rubina, how difficult or easy it is to be a CEO? You're a CEO yourself, managing 250 plus employees today. I know it is not easy. How do you keep up with yourself as a woman and then as a leader? And why don't you talk about your journey to everyone and inspire everyone who's listening to you?
Well, uh, Thank you so much, Poonam. But yeah, I'll agree with you. It's never easy, because like PT was saying today, you've come across a lot of girls who are very ambitious. But let me tell you that, it's not just enough to aim very high. You have to work very hard towards it. And you have to be very, very dedicated. If you're ambitious, you want to get somewhere, you have some goals, you have to work very, very hard for it. And it also involves not just effort, but a lot of sacrifice as well. And you have to be ready for it. And what I would say is that all women should definitely have the confidence in themselves that they can do things. They should never undermine themselves, of their own potential, because very often I come across women who have a lot of self-doubt about themselves. So they have to be very confident. They have to believe in themselves that they can achieve whatever they want. And I think the other thing is being happy in achieving what you want. So, you have to listen to your heart and make your decisions accordingly. So let's say, which is maybe one, there could be one decision which is very important for somebody and may be right for someone and make them happy, while it could be completely something else which would make the other person happy. So you have to stop judging yourself and just learn to be happy, make the right decisions. It's always about choices. Make the choice that makes you happy. And I think just follow your heart and you will get where you want to be. It's not necessary for everybody to aim to be at the top of a company. Maybe make you happy, maybe that's not really what you want. But whatever you want, whatever makes you happy as a professional and, as an individual, I think that's really where you should follow your heart and, follow that path. And like I said earlier, it is, my learning has been that it takes a lot of hard work, confidence in yourself, a bit of luck, and definitely a very supportive family to get to where you want to in your professional journey.
True. Now, just picking up from what you said, for that matter, any CEO has to work hard, right? If you're leading an organization, you don't have a choice, right? You're always, you are who's looked at. What you are doing is a subset of what the leadership quality you have to drive what is needed in the business in terms of performance numbers or whatever. Now tell me one thing, as a CEO and as a does it make any difference in your organization? Like, how do you tackle, I'm sure you won't tell me that, Poonam, hey, there is no workplace sexism or I don't get complaints or things like that, but as a woman on top, does it make a difference? I'm also speaking from the premise that tomorrow, if organizations can look at more women CEOs, will we be able to make a better corporate world for women? Will it be more safer? What has been your experience as a leader on top?
Absolutely, Poonam. It really helps having more women on the top. And I'll tell you why. Because I look at sexism as two types. One is like what we heard of when I was earlier in my career, 20 years ago. It was more hostile, where they would say that, okay, it was still okay to prefer men over women, or talk about it, obviously, or, have the women organize the fun activities in office and not like do the important decisions in the meetings, etc. That was what I call hostile sexism, which was there like back in the days. These days, what I really see is something, because there's been so much chatter, awareness, conversation around this. So obviously men are also aware, right, of what is happening. But on the other hand, it's not that it's completely stopped.
Correct.
It's not that somebody's saying, oh, because she's a woman, I'm not going to promote her and all of that. No, all that doesn't happen in today's world, in my experience at least. Okay. But what happens is something which is called, or which I call, is called benevolent sexism, right?
Yes.
So let me give you an example. So what would happen is, like, in an agency, you have a big pitch and all of that. You worked overnight, you worked very hard. And after the pitch, whether it's gone well or not so well, you have to get out, get a drink, talk about how it went, and general banter, get-togethers, as a group of colleagues. It's often that the men would say, okay, let's go get out a drink. But when it would come to the women, not even ask them, oh, poor thing, she pulled her all-nighter yesterday, so maybe, she has to get back home. Did you ask that person, would she like to join, or would she like to go back home to her family, or just take some time off for herself.
I mean, Rubina, for that matter, even men, they go back to their families only, right?
Exactly.
But that is not the thought, right?
Exactly. So, they don't think that, okay, the men who are going out for a drink also after that all-nighter next day, they also have families. So they forget they have the families, but the women have the families. Or a second typical case which I see is anything which involves a lot of travel, right? Would say, okay, let's give it to somebody, the male colleague, instead of the female colleagues, because it'll be hard for her. How will she, manage so many things traveling and all of that? So it somewhere comes from concern and a goodwill for women. But the fact is, you're denying an opportunity without asking the woman that if she's okay with it or not, by just stereotyping and typecasting. Because you could also have the male colleague who's just had a baby, is a father, but you would not bring that in the way, but you would say that the woman, maybe she's just got married, or maybe, will she be able to take so much travel if she's single, or maybe she's just had a baby, will she be able to leave her baby alone? And you don't even ask that woman, would she put her hand up, and is she okay with it? And she should be allowed to make that choice. So this is the kind of sexism that I see. And like you rightly said, Poonam, it's very important to have women leaders, right? Because how do you correct that behavior? Most often than not, the women who are facing this are, at junior to mid levels. Correct. And they may or may not muster up the courage to stand up for themselves and fight it back, right? Because the bosses, maybe male, they don't know whether the bosses will support them, the managers will support them, not support them. They're not sure, right? It's very hard for everybody to stand up for themselves and pick it up. But you need leaders to be able to see this and correct that behavior right there. Because if you correct that behavior, it sets an example for the entire team. Absolutely. And they understand it. And I think women, because they've gone through their own journeys, they've faced it one way or the other through their careers, and they are able to see it from their own lens and see it far better and correct that behavior of the entire organization.
Very well said. Very well said.
Therefore, I feel women leaders do make a difference, and having more and more women leaders will bring that change in the future.
We all are hoping so. The whole idea of #WeToo is to, encourage a lot of women out there who are listening, watching, that, hey, this world is all about equality and we have to go and achieve it. Very well said, Rubina. I want to now come to Preeti Srivastava with us. I'm just picking up from what Rubina said, and it's very, very similar to, when leaders come across workplace sexism, such as men talking over women or rolling their eyes, when women speak, or addressing them possibly as just, hey, you're gorgeous. Indra Nooyi, in one of her latest interviews, said that leaders need to immediately intervene in such situations. If we call out bad behavior right away, and give feedback, constructive feedback when it is needed, the signaling effect is terrific, and it matters. It tells everyone that, possibly the boss is watching. Preeti, you have been a leader for a very long time. I don't want to say for how many years, but we all look up to leaders like you.
36 years. It's my 36th year in the industry.
Oh my God. We have so much to learn from leaders like you. Why don't you inspire everyone who's watching? You know the topic, right? I want you to tell the reality and what women can do, when they face.
It's been a tough journey to where I've reached today. So while I was listening to others, I really went back in the memory lane. So I've been a literature student, a dreamer, and I was very excited, joined telecom sales. And my first interview, so we had a written which I passed in face-to-face interview. They just said, well, you did well, but we have rejected you because you're a girl and girls don't do sale. So I'll never forget. And it was a whole room filled of men. So my first experience, crashing off my dreams as a young woman was that women cannot do sales.
Right.
From there, I moved up. There's another incident, and I've worked for one of the best companies. I don't want to name them. I'd reached an assistant manager level by the time, and I was doing well. But I never got any sympathy on any kind of support from my colleagues. I would sit and have my lunch together. Alone. I would go on, and sales at time was very tough. You had to go. We used to sell EPA. It is an old form of telephone exchanges. Yeah. So I was given the toughest one road, multi-storied buildings, go to each and every office and sell, and the boys were given, nice embassies and multinational. And I was locked in a room in the office with an HR head, admin, and 2 bosses, all men. I was the only girl in that organization on sales, and they had my resignation typed.
Oh God!
And they said, just sign. Because, they couldn't have fired me. My performance was good. And it went like a mental torture for about 3 to 4 hours. I don't remember. I was on the brink of crying and breaking down. But there was some voice that said, Preeti, if you give out today, it's over for you.
Right.
I have seen that culture, and I'm talking of early 90s, 1991, when women were not accepted in any of such outgoing kind. Sales, marketing, PR was also dominated by men. And then so it is not only the corporate, because I chose to come into corporate affairs, public affairs, which is still till date as I speak is dominated by men. My biggest problem was dealing with the government. There to Bikul bhi, you go there and you deal with everybody. You deal with senior IS officers, you deal with the babu who starts your file. You have to talk to the PNK, meri file aage badha do. So you have to deal with all kind of people. And you walk in and people will just leave the work and start staring at you.
True.
People would, have double meaning conversations with me. But what I learned and the experience is that first I accepted that the society is like that before even trying to work on myself. I think that acceptance that, ye aisi hi society hai. It's now up to you what you want to do. So I had some very good mentors, male mentors, bosses who groomed me that, what should be my body language, the way I should dress up. And, and I used to be very, rigid at times at talking. If somebody's cracking a joke and I would not laugh or, and one has to be there. Once I understood that, is it not your, corporate, but it's also the world outside, the government, the people you deal, the vendors you deal. Then I decided it's time to draw a bigger line, and I started avoiding people and created my own space. The only thing I tell youngsters also is that, if you're good in your work, you should document. What has happened is there have been cases with my juniors, with myself, where I have not documented. I have nothing to prove. It is so sad that women have to, if there's somebody has complained against you, or you want to complain against a male colleague, they will ask the women, oh, aapke paas kya proof hai? You're just trying to malign him. So as far as your work is concerned, I tell everybody, please document, because that's your real proof. Agar aapka kaam acha hai, nobody can take away that from you. And that's your only victory of work. So I just concentrated and created documentation for my management on my work performance and just avoided. And then it took very long for me. To go ahead and reach where I am. And then, now I can tell things are much better. And my generation, I was not very confident. To be very frank, I used to get scared while traveling, and nobody to guide.
Correct.
The only guide was my family. So as somebody said, if you are, and I always feel if you're emotionally secure from the family personal side, you can climb mountains.
Fight the world. You can fight the world.
Right. They were with me, but बहुत डरते आगे बढ़ी हूँ. Today people see me, oh wow, dream job. You're doing so much of NGO work. Somebody should ask me, what a timid, scared, fearful Preeti I was. So it is circumstances, but only thing is, it's that moment decision, whether should I give up, play safe, or take head on.
Right.
And
Right.
this moment comes in everybody's life. And once you cross that,
Then
no looking back.
I really want you to, you just said, somebody needs to ask you, the timid, scared. If in today's time, we are talking about a social age, digital age where Gen Zs know everything, like a 10-year-old has more knowledge because they can possibly surf better than me. Honestly,
Absolutely.
if I'm taking 10 minutes to search something, some kid will come and say, hey, it is here. And I'm like, wow, because they are oriented that way, right? Um, but still, there are women, there are girls who are timid. They don't have that confidence. They might be very, they from externally, they know how to, they are more groomed, I would say, but they don't have that confidence. What will you tell them?
See, I would tell the parents. And there are times where there are 25, 24 years in my company, telecom, very young talent comes sometime just after graduation. And when I see their personality, I always talk to the parents first. And I always, because the way we bring up our girl child
Right.
is wrong. Hamari foundation hi galat hai. We still discriminate between a boy and a girl. We still do. Sorry to say that. So suddenly you can't expect a woman who's out in the corporate world to change and face because hamari foundation hi itni weak hai.
True.
So once we cannot change. I mean, we can tell the young parents now, but then what I do is, and that as a women leader, the mother in me has become very strong over the years. So then we try and tell them, but my biggest advice is, and I see there's a lot of shortcut lene ka, I've seen the young girls, they would, want profiles, want career, where promotions are higher or perks are good, but itna mehnat nahi hai. And, they're ready to leave their ambition. So somewhere as a society, we need to have a mindset or a cultural change that on one hand, we talk of women empowerment, we want all the rights, but are we really enough working for them? My answer is no. And at times I'm not welcomed a lot of women forums because I said, let's not blame men for it. We are trying to show ourselves. We are the ones who need, we are the victims, we are the weaker sex. The day we stopped thinking ourselves and in mind and in act, if we think we are equal, there'll be no battles fought on gender equality. And everybody has read the reports. Somebody said it will take 50 years to reach gender equality, 100.
Now it is 150 years because of COVID. So these are reports, but I totally reckon with what you said.
We have to change in our mind.
Correct.
So until unless we don't change in our mind, so I'm doing whatever my individual effort with the people I work, and I work with a lot of youngsters in my NGO and in my corporate.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I am very sure that a lot of girls out there are going to take a lot of inspiration from what you said. And what Preeti you said, now I'm so excited to come to Niyati now with all the, all that you heard. Niyati, you're coming from a space where, you're an author yourself, in this matter of sexuality and, how we look at ourselves. At some point in time, I feel that there is a cult that is very, very forward looking. They've moved. You can't even, and still, so we don't have the balance of understanding when it comes to workplace sexuality, where to draw the line, where to stand up, where to be confident, where to feel that it is equal, where to not feel that you heard something and you feel touchy about it. What is your opinion and expert view on this take?
After listening to all the women here, I actually was like, everybody said what needed to be said. All our journeys have been challengeful. We have stood up for ourselves. We have made that move. We have said that I want it and I'm going to get it in whatever space and way we did. But the only thing that struck me so hard is what Preeti said just now, that we've been conditioned in our childhood itself, that this is how the world is. So if that is already our roots, and that is how our mothers have felt for us, it is going to not only take us time to unlearn what we've learned and then relearn the new formulas to be the leaders who we all want women to be.
Right.
It's double work for us. So as she said, the parents are the first place that we need that change from. We need the parents. Now, when we were talking about how the difference between the man and the woman, or the boy and the girl, it actually starts from all the way down to maybe like a year and a half, when the baby is a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years, when they first step into the school and they see the washrooms are different, the lines are different, the rows are different, the boys are treated differently, the girls are treated differently. But that's still an institution who we can give a benefit of doubt that they want certain discipline. But at homes, while we are all talking about our challenges, when we go back home, we become those mothers, we become those sisters, and we go and tell. And in my career, trust me, the mothers who have come for the workshops, for the sessions, they tell me this, that Niyati, I know what we have to face outside in the world. Please tell my daughter the same thing, how bad the world is. She should not wear such clothes. She should not go down because there are all these people who are working in the building. She should do martial arts because she'll have to protect herself. I agree to what you're saying. You mean safety for your children. But why is the fear instilled in your voice?
Instilling the fear, and then it comes true, as simple as that.
Because what you're saying may be true for a girl and for a boy. The world is not safe for anybody. But why are you focusing only on the girl? Why are you instilling that fear? So by the time they reach Mika as an institute or any college, the job's done. They are already fearful. And then we have to work from the institute's point of view. How do I now train this girl to be ready for a corporate?
And that's so difficult because the upbringing is different. What would you tell, what would you tell the working women, specifically people who are in the jobs and offices, and if they come across any uncomfortable situation, how to not let it go to the next level? How can you have a brave face in the beginning and have that confidence?
So I'll tell you, nobody is ready for any situation. Certain situations, because we speak as a group, we know, like the boss may eve tease you, the boss may, ask you to stay back later in the nights. There are some instances we've heard commonly, but at the end of the day, you don't know who's going to make a pass at you and who's going to touch you inappropriately. We get touched even on the roads. So it's not just about corporates, but I think what women or the young girls, what they should know is, where do I want to reach at the end of the day? Is it this job just because I want to be financially independent? Or is this the job where I see that I want to grow as a person? If it's a job for money, you can hop jobs and get it done. I don't have anything to say to them. Even they will not have a very smooth journey at the end of the day. But what I want to say is, you are going to stay in one company or the other. You may want to have your own company one day. So if you don't hold your chair and say, this is who I am, this is my chair, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. Just how, Rubina said, you just have to make the decision for yourself. So very quickly, I'll give you this example. My kids were very young when I started the journey for sex education. And I was facing challenges, like multiple challenges. One, oh, you are a sex educator. How did you go through this journey being a woman?
Yeah.
That question itself brings that smile on my face. I said, now you've hit the target. This is exactly what I want to talk about. What does sexuality education have to do with a man or a woman? It has to do with education. Correct. So what they mean to say is, being a woman, how can you talk about these topics and what are the challenges you've faced? So it's not like I've not faced challenges. The only thing is I knew where I want to go.
Correct.
So when men from big industries, publication houses, and when they used to tell me, Niyati, meet me at 5 in the evening, 6 in the evening, 4 in the evening, I had decided that my children come back at 3 in the afternoon. I will be home at 3 in the afternoon. That is my decision as a woman. I want to be the working woman. I want to be a mother for my children. What's wrong in that? I can very well play 2 roles. I wake up at 6 in the morning. I do my job. So women here need to understand it's okay to say, no, not after 3 p.m.
I'm not available. Simple.
I'm not available. So if a CEO can say that I have a meeting at 5, I'm not available, they are respected. But if a woman says, I have to go back home to my children at 4 p.m., why is that woman seen as, oh, you have to let go of all this niyati if you want to move ahead in your career. And I said, I will move with my children. And that is what
Wonderful. That's
and that is what
wonderful.
I was telling the other mothers. Like, if I can do it, you can do it too. It's okay to look for things where you can move ahead. And it's
Wonderful.
okay to
Wonderful.
delegate jobs.
So,
Wonderful,
Poonam, I'd like to
wonderful.
add
Sure.
to it a bit if I have your permission.
No, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
like you asked about something about harassment of women, or how, how do they feel safe? What do you ensure for yourself? Like Niyati said very well, you don't know what's going to happen.
Correct.
But there is something we all can do, be prepared. So we know the society, we have a patriarchal society, we have male chauvinism, which is prevalent. So be prepared. So if anything happens that offends you, you find it offensive, the first thing is to speak up for yourself. That is very, very important. Look, I don't like it. I don't like this behavior. Do not repeat it. At least 70% of the women don't do that. Chances are if you do that, that behavior will stop there itself. Then the second thing is reporting it at the right time. If you feel you have tried to stop a person, he's not stopping. And generally the people who are harassers, their mentality is such, they would be a serial harasser. So either they would harass you multiple times or they would harass multiple women at the same time. So seek support, women supporting women. I have been having instances where, there was this worker, there was a woman worker who said that one male worker was, looking at her in a way she didn't like. And she came up with it. And when we tried to find out, there were several other women who came and said, yes, this is happening to all of us. Abhi nahi chalega, isko yahan se nikalo. So I've seen women supporting each other and creating a safe work environment. Then the third thing is role of male allies. So while there are a lot of men who are doing harassment, there are a lot of men who would be there to support us. We need to include them in the journey, because believe it or not, they are the ones who have the power and authority still with them. So why not include them in a journey and say you support us for this? I have seen men supporting and saying like, this is happening to my colleague. So I'm a POSH certified trainer. And I have seen men coming up to me and saying, Shivani, this is something that's happening to my colleague. What do I do? How do I help?
How can I help? How can I help? That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And another thing I wanted to add, like Preeti had mentioned that, it's difficult for women to come up. And how do you prove? Like we have this act in place now, Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. And I would like to use this platform to educate people that there you just need to show that there was a probability that it happened. You don't need to prove that it happened. So things are changing and are changing for the welfare of women. And a lot of things can be done to make sure that the women feel empowered, safe in the organization. Only thing is the journey has to begin with them. They have to come up and speak for themselves.
Very well said. With this amazing. Yes,
just one little point
here.
You know what Shivani mentioned, that it is important to tell people and put a stop over there. Very interestingly, when I speak to the younger girls on the topics of safe and unsafe touch, now the sexual harassment that is a bigger topic today starts from all these young girls who are facing the inappropriate touch by whether it's family members, whether it's the outside world. Very interestingly, when I ask them to say, why don't you tell the abuser? How would you tell the abuser, don't touch me? It's just 3 words. You will be amazed how girls actually say that. They are soft because they've been taught to be polite. They don't have that strength in their voice to say that don't touch me. And I actually spend time to telling them, this is not how you will say it. Hold your finger, look into the abuser's eye, and now say, don't touch me. Only when the girls see us older women do that, do they learn how to say, don't touch me.
Correct.
So while we are teaching them, beta, you must tell them, don't touch me, then you run away from there and you look for somebody who can help you. But as children, they don't understand. Even as adults, we also don't know where to go to look for help. So when there is some indication that, okay, this is how you must do it, there is a lot of preparation just in these 3 steps that we women will know what to do.
I'm sure a lot of women will take inspiration from what you said. With this, keeping a watch on the time, let us now quickly do a quick round with all of you. We heard Shivani summarize with her top 3 takes. We heard Niyati summarize beautifully. The key takeaway that I get from you, Niyati, is please don't touch and like this, I got it. I learned it. And I'm sure a lot of people who are going to be watching this, they would know that it is fine to be strong and stern and speak confidently because it is for you. Let me quickly go to Rubina. Let's start with you, Rubina, and then both the Preetis. Please summarize the session for us.
So what I would say is that be aware of what you're surrounded with. Have the confidence in yourself. Follow your heart and be confident. People will support you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rubina. Preeti with the I.
It was so wonderful listening to them and also getting educated. So what my take has always been, lead by example, because we need role models. So that is very important. And Neeti, I was so good to listen to her. And that's what I tell my people, that, it is very empowering and courageous the way you say no.
Yeah.
So we have to teach our youngsters how to say no. And the third thing I would love to do is create awareness of what Shivani said, or what Neeti is doing, or what Preeti Shroff said, because what happens is we get locked in our own world of our jobs and all. I think forums like this, and Poonam, you can take it forward, and I volunteer like others, where we can go and teach. We can take our voices and teach the younger generation. I think we have to get out of our comfort zone of our jobs, and as individuals, social responsibility, go and teach.
Absolutely.
And tell our story. Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you so much. Preeti, all yours. I want you to summarize for the younger generation and even for the corporate women who are working. What would be your best piece of advice? Because you have extensive experience, global experience. So please summarize the session for us today.
Thank you, everyone. It's just so wonderful to see the beauty in everything that you all have said. So the first piece of sharing I have is, we need to teach our young girls and women to celebrate themselves. You are beautiful the way you are. Society gives all these labels: short, tall, black, dark, light, heavy, not. You have to absolutely make sure that we teach our girls to recognize how beautiful you are as a human being. Because at the end of the day, we are all human beings, and it has to be communicated. Because sometimes we women also inhale these societal labels, and then we repeat that, and that impacts girls also. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, do not give up. Sometimes family will not understand. Sometimes your spouses will not understand. Sometimes your children will not understand. That's the way society is, and we are trying to change it. So do not give up. Keep going, and you will find mentors. You will find promoters. You'll find great women's network. It takes a while, and you'll feel very alone. And that's how we all have felt. But don't give up in that moment of feeling lonely or alone, because that's the way we'll have to keep going till we change the situation, and we will not be alone. So that's the second piece. And third piece is, look after yourself and your mental health. We have been given so much burden since childhood, emotionally, mentally, physically. We do get tired. So take the time off, what I call take a gap year. Students take a gap year. Take a gap moment as women and breathe and go celebrate what you enjoy. So those are the three things I would say.
Thank you so much. You so beautifully summarized it. I cannot thank each one of you for your amazing views. I think I've never had this conscious conversation that we had, Otherwise, all the conversations that I want to really clap for each one of you, because whoever will watch this will get a very strong key takeaway from each one of you, from experience to newness to coaching to training and to being a CEO. Thank you so much. I hope hashtag WeToo, now you all are part of it. So again, a very warm welcome. We together as women leaders will go and make a mark in the world by empowering other women. That's the vision. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, Poonam.
Poonam.
Thank you.
Sure.